I wanted to make a video talking about Charlie Kirk. I actually wanted to make the video last night and do a stream last night, but I just wanted to take the day to kind of distance myself from social media and just kind of let my thoughts organize themselves a bit. And I did want to talk about Charlie Kirk for just a few minutes here. And I'm going to be honest with you, I did not spend a lot of time listening to him. I knew who he was. I had seen a lot of clips and videos of him on social media and on YouTube. And I guess I don't know, maybe the viral college debating format is not my favorite format in terms of consuming political media, but I knew enough about him to respect the effort that he put in to reaching young people and young adults. And Kirk understood that whatever America would be moving forward, it would be a representation of the hearts and minds of young people, of young adults. And not that the voice and opinion of older people don't matter, of middle-aged people don't matter, but ultimately it was going to be the young people that were going to usher in any sort of change. And he dedicated his life to sharing his beliefs and trying to convince young people and young adults and college students and people of that age that the choices that they made mattered. And being aware of different things politically mattered, and what they did moving forward mattered in terms of how it is going to affect society and how it is going to affect our country. And a lot of times when I observe a prominent figure, whether it's in sports or politics or whatever it is, whatever kind of field it's in, sometimes I ask myself the question, do I think this person is actually happy? Do I actually think this person enjoys what they do? And people talk about talent a lot. Talent is sometimes it can be very obvious. This person has a specific talent. He's very athletic, or he's a great speaker, or something like that. But there's the secondary question, and you hear this, like, let's say in the NFL, he's got the talent, but does he love the game? Does he love what he does? Because sometimes that's the deciding factor. Sometimes that's what sets people apart, is not only they're talented, but they love what they do. They're passionate about what they do. And sometimes in the realm of politics, I look at some of these people, they're content creators, they're political figures, maybe they're well known or not so well known, and they get caught up in maybe the money, or they get caught up in the popularity that comes with being a figure, but they don't actually seem happy. It doesn't actually seem like they enjoy what they do, or they enjoy their life. And I mean, politics can be pretty discouraging. And a lot of the things, like like we saw with the death of Charlie Kirk, it can be very messy and a very negative atmosphere in which to build a career or to be active in. But with Charlie Kirk, I feel like that he truly loved every part of what he did. And You could tell by how passionate he was, how hard he worked, the smile that he had on his face, the way that he approached talking with young people and young adults about very difficult issues. And you could tell that he loved his country, the love he had for his wife and kids, for his family. And I don't think you had to ask that question about him. I think that it was obvious that he loved what he did and he was passionate about what he did and he was passionate about all the other things that are were connected to his career and to his lifestyle, and he was a happy person. He was a happy person. And you watch the videos of him right before his life was taken, and he's smiling and he just seemed to be a joyful person. We lost a joyful, happy person. And he this was a guy that no doubt received threats. Obviously, people hated him for what he believed and what he stood for. And times where in secret, or maybe I don't know how much he talked about it publicly, but times that he received threats, people threatening to do harm to him and maybe his family as well. But that he never let that stop him from standing up. He never let that stop him from standing up for what he believed in. And he was not going to be scared away from doing what he believed to be right. And that to me is a very respectable person. That is somebody that I feel like that I can look up to and others can look up to. And while you would hate to see anything like that happen to anybody, and I think back to when Trump was almost when Trump was almost killed, and how scary of a situation that was. And that situation is obviously different for a couple different reasons. One, Trump didn't actually get killed, and two, he's the president of the United States, so it's a little bit different in terms of the power dynamics and things like that. But this one, this one's hard to deal with. And I told my wife, I said, what makes it difficult, and one of the things that makes it hard is that it just seems like he was a halfway normal person. Just seemed like he was just halfway normal guy. And she looked at me and said, "No, he was a normal guy. He was a normal person." As and people have different opinions on what they would consider to be normal and different things like that. But he just seemed like a down to earth guy. He was the guy that would go out, and it just seemed like he could talk to almost anybody. And I'm sure a lot of us have people in our own lives that seem able to do that, where they could just go and talk to anybody. But he was just so gifted at it. And he seemed like he was obviously a very approachable person. He would have open mics. People would line up to ask him questions and debate about things. And and he would always graciously accept the challenge. And he wasn't afraid of that challenge. And he was the guy, it's a lot of debating, it's a lot of talking, but it was just conversation. He was the conversation guy. He was the conversation guy. And while there's other speakers and other people that like to debate, there was something different about him. And we don't have that anymore. We lost that person. We lost that unique person. And it's also hard for me to think about, just because he was doing what he loved to do. That was his life. That was his career. That was everything to him was being out there and having profitable discussions with other people. And just in an instant, it was gone. And it's just extremely sad. It's extremely sad. And I will say one thing, and this is one of the reasons why I tried to stay off social media for the most part, is to avoid the negativity and avoid the horrible things that people are saying about him. And just as kind of a response, people are using this, and people are using the fact that he was killed with a rifle to mock him, in the sense that, it came back, all of these years of defending the Second Amendment came back to bite him in the rear end. As if that, people think that that's justice. People think that they have taken the stance that they believe that is ironic, and that Charlie Kirk deserved what he got because of all of his years standing up for the Second Amendment, and that was his legacy. Dying at the hands of somebody who shot it was his legacy of defending the Second Amendment. And that is just such a gross misrepresentation of what he believed. To say that Charlie Kirk was, just because he was in favor of the Second Amendment, that he also was contributing, he was not the person that believed in political violence. He was not that is not what he stood for. Even though he was pro gun, he did not stand for murder and political violence. He believed in the Second Amendment so that we could have the opportunity to defend ourselves from people like the messed up person that killed him. And he understood that we needed the Second Amendment, so we, as innocent individuals, those of us that want to have conversation, those of us that actually want to be a part of society and move society forward, we can defend ourselves from people like the person that killed him. And some of these people that have come out to mock him and say horrible things about him, these are the s- some of the, these are some of the same people. Some of these same people, they worship and celebrate criminals and criminality, and then they come out and they rejoice the death of an innocent guy who had a wife, who had a kid, had kids, had a successful life, who never did anything wrong except share his beliefs and share an opinion that was different than what the left had to say, or different from the people that he had a different opinion than the people that are celebrating his death. That is who we are dealing with. All some of these people, when they praise George Floyd and they say they look up to George Floyd and all this other crap, are now laughing and celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. This is some demonic stuff that we are seeing. This is some demonic stuff that we are dealing with here. And it's really hard to think, who's gonna be that guy who is invested in the young people. And I understand and I know that there are other prominent voices and there are other political figures that are invested in young people, but it just doesn't it's not the same. It's not the same. What Charlie Kirk was able to do as an influencer, he wasn't a politician. He wasn't some he wasn't even necessarily in the traditional sense a guy that had a lot of power. He was just a guy that was very passionate about his country. And he had a lot of influence, and the fact that he was no doubt murdered for his influence in his beliefs, it proves that he was right about the corrosive, destructive mindset and the corrosive, destructive aspects of the left. And even though he didn't have that kind of political power, again, he wasn't a politician, he didn't have that traditional power. He he carried with him the ability to change people's minds. And this is what I was talking about just a few days ago when compared to protesting. It's like protesting, I don't really see the value in it. Having profitable discussions with people is what is profitable. And he was that guy. That was like his thing. He was like the king of that. He just went around to different universities and talked with people. And so I feel very badly for his wife and his children. And it's just a very one of the this is one of the worst in terms of just sadness, one of the worst things that I've experienced in terms of just being involved in politics and talking about politics. It's one of the worst things that I've had to see happen. And you hope and pray that you hope and pray for his family that they will be able to carry on and to find strength and that they would have support during this time. And I just want to say that I appreciated Charlie Kirk and the stances that he took on a lot of different things. And if I spent the next week searching through all of his discussions and all of his content, I'm sure I would find things that I don't agree with. Like I said, I didn't listen to him a whole lot. I'm sure I could find things that I don't agree with. But you cannot deny the influence that he had. You cannot deny the good person that he was. And so I just wanted to say that I'm appreciative of him and his family and all the things and all the values and all the the sacrifice. Right? He sacrificed his life to he sacrificed his life for his beliefs. He he was willing to continue forward and move forward even though he knew that people didn't like him, that hated him, that would like to do him harm. That wasn't going to stop him. And so I guess there's a lot of people just saying thank you to Charlie. And I hope that whatever message, the messages that he left behind, hopefully that they will find a profitable place in the hearts and minds of all the people that look up to him.